Hi, welcome everyone to a World of Warships replay. Today I'll be featuring the Zuiho class, Tier 5 Japanese aircraft carrier. And we'll be taking it in a pre-6.0 replay. At the time of this recording, what is today's date? Today is the 23rd of January, 2017. So, patch 6.0 has gone live by this point. Do apologize at first. The replay on for carriers is a little choppy.
Let's give them a hard time.
One way when you're watching a carrier replay is you can see the bottom. I have all my squads highlighted. This is so we can see what their orders are. Like if I just select the fighter squadron, we can see what he's doing. But let's say I select torpedo bomber squadron, he's no longer highlighted on the map. Anyway, we are in a Tier 5 maximum game on Fault Line. This game was recorded, I think, this battle took place, I think, on the 17th of January? I don't remember exactly when this battle happened. It happened before patch 6.0 went live. By the time you're watching this, it'll be irrelevant. So one of the first things I do, and this is I looked at the tier of the enemy fighters of this carrier. It's a mirror match for Zuiho. What I mean by that is both players are a Zuiho, both carrier players. I checked to see what tier his fighters are. His fighters were tier 5. That told me he had the A5Ms and not the A6Ms. So basically he had the A5Ms and I had the zeros. So I knew I have a fighter advantage. And I kind of got complacent with fighter coverage after seeing that. That's definitely a mistake you can make. I've played carrier since the closed beta. And I'm definitely not the best at them, but I definitely got lazy with my fighter coverage. I felt I could play a lot more aggressively than I did, and I forgot that you still have to respect fighters, even if they're a lower tier. I know that I can win the one-on-one fight, and I am faster than his fighters. I run down his fighters easily, and we engage. Credit to the enemy Zuiho carrier. At least when controlling his fighters, he had a decent idea of what he should be doing. Meanwhile, this Congo, I kind of was really lazy on attacking him. I just figured I would use a concentrated attack. And again, me being lazy here. And I got relatively lucky with the bombers actually getting 2 hits, setting fire with both, considering these are not American bombers. But torpedo planes coming my way, I am not worried about them in the slightest. I was actually kind of wondering why my fighters hadn't actually wrapped up his fighters. And I figured that would set the tone for the rest of the battle, granting that I just wiped out half his fighter reserves. It does look like he's running the same aircraft set that I am, the 1-2-1. 1 fighter, 2 torpedo bombers, and 1 dive bomber set. I wish you could customize your sets. Like how many, well, not necessarily how many planes per squadron, but how many squadrons, how many reserves you have. Like each tier could have like a maximum number of squadrons. Say for the Zuiho, right? You have 4 squadrons that you're allowed to deploy, and then you get to divide them up however you want. Because I might opt for 3 torpedo bomber squadrons instead of the bomber squadron. Because to be honest, I don't find a lot of use for the bombers. However, I have been destroyed by dive bombers before, specifically American dive bombers. So far, kind of a lazy start, kind of a very poor start on my part. I should have been able to handle the Congo better. I just was lazy in attacking him. And that's a problem I have when I'm playing carriers. Usually I'm not taking them overly seriously. That can lead to a huge problem. Especially because I got complacent here, figuring that I would just have air supremacy. I could do whatever I want with the enemy fleet. Here's a little bit better aimed torpedo attack. I tried to attack it a little bit longer range, hoping not to lose too many of my torpedo planes. At the very beginning of this match, it's basically me being extremely lazy and replace it with my aircraft. Here's an enemy fighter squadron. I do pull my craft out, but, you know, those are still fighters and those are still bombers. I should not have my bombers that close together. I needed to spread them out. And this fighter, right, here comes the strafe. There goes a bomber squadron. All my bombers are dead. All 4 of them. Now I'm doing what I should have been doing and should have had them engaging. But he gets a second strafe. I had my fighters coming in a straight line. He wastes this torpedo bomber squadron. I lost 7 aircraft right there just because I didn't play. I basically was lazy. Did not try to avoid him. I just figured I would have air supremacy. Yes, I swatted down those fighters. And that is more than likely all of his fighters. Or most, if not all of them. Gone. But still, I could have avoided losing those aircraft. And after that, that was a real wake-up call for me, realizing that I still have to take this enemy carrier seriously. I still have to play. You know, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know, I'm not trying to defend my poor actions, you know. I just felt that I could play around with him a little bit more. And I didn't take him seriously whatsoever, but now I've decided I gotta take this a little bit more seriously from this point. Send the dive bomber squadron over. I kind of mistimed that attack, but mainly was trying to spot the torpedoes in the water for the cruisers and battleships. I'm still not used to German destroyers, so yeah. Kind of, again, just kind of being lazy with the dive bomber. I wasn't really expecting much, just trying to force him to maneuver. Fighters, I'm not really doing anything with at the moment. I'm microing my torpedo planes. I'm trying... I see the Konigsberg going in, and I see him turn in the torpedoes, and I basically just watch the Konigsberg just get eaten by torpedoes. My first torpedo set was basically to lock the V-170 maneuvering. The Konigsberg gets destroyed. And this V-170 kind of... I'm not really sure what he thought we was going to accomplish, because he ends up driving right into the first set of torpedoes. No, he avoids those, but he loses all his energy. And eats 1 torpedo, and the Yubari wraps him up. Yubari does the final, I think, 400 or so damage to him. So, there's a little bit more damage. I finally apply my fighters a little bit. Get enemy bombers off the destroyers. That destroyer, I should have noticed that sooner. And also, I'm playing really aggressively with my carrier. You can see from my mouse cursor. Look where my carrier is. I am way out of position. I think that destroyer is now dead. And then there's another destroyer over here, and then I'm the closest to the enemy after that. As you can see, I was not taking my carrier position seriously whatsoever. I was actually planning on... I'm not exactly sure what I was planning, actually, for this. I noticed the Clemson smoke up. He's fighting a Nicholas, which he could actually win that fight. My fighters spot a cruiser. I'm backing them off. I just have the bombers haphazardly attack, I think. Yeah. No chance of hitting the Nicholas. Not a chance. But now the Clemson's entered the Nicholas's smokescreen. Clemson dumps torpedoes. The Nicholas is all stop. I drop torpedoes in the Nicholas's direction. The Nicholas kills the Clemson. And we kill the Nicholas. Securing our first kill of the match. Meanwhile, we got a couple enemy cruisers in the north. I'm doing what I should be doing now and putting a large island between me and enemy fire. Now here we got a Kaiser and a New York. This is going to be an interesting attack because I can't get close to them or else I will hemorrhage aircraft, and I already lost a whole bunch of aircraft. I cannot afford to lose aircraft at this point. I have 1 spare torpedo plane, no spare bombers, and 3 spare fighters. So I'm going to do a long-range attack on the enemy Kaiser. The idea behind this is to get the Kaiser to maneuver so we get some separation between him and his New York. The idea being that for our friendly battleships, dealing with them one at a time would be easier. Also hoping the Kaiser keeps his turn to starboard, so this battleship that's sitting in D2 may actually start shooting at him. The Yubari torpedoes the Furutaka in the northern flank. Meanwhile, I spot a Diane. I actually misidentified this for a Russian cruiser. I honestly thought the Diane, I was thinking it was the premium Diane that's Russian. I don't even remember what tier it is. But that is actually a British cruiser. But I wasn't exactly wrong in stating its AA is fairly terrible. So I'm sending my fighters over to act as a sponge, basically. Current match status, we hold a points advantage, enemy have 5 ships remaining. We've lost 4 ships, most notably all the destroyers are dead. We spot the Diane. We're going to start with the dive bombers. I've got 1 torpedo bomber close. I spot the dive bomber squadron, or you can see a dive bomber squadron up here in C9. We're going to start, meanwhile, we're going to start our attack on the Diane. And I think people don't realize how close you can get to these islands and still being able to drop torpedoes. This Diane eats 1 of the first wave's torpedoes. No flooding, which made me sad, because that would have forced him to burn his damage control ability. Next we're going to bring in, I believe this is Group 4? Yes, Group 4 to come in and attack. I'm going to use my fighters again as a sponge. I'm trying to predict the Diane's turn pattern. The Diane turns, he was turning to port and he reversed his turn to starboard. He's kind of late on his turn to starboard. Like, he can't decide which direction he wants to turn, and he pays for that by eating another torpedo. This one causes flooding. So he is forced to burn his damage control ability, and yeah, I believe he kicks on his damage repair ability as well. I decide to pull my fighters. I actually, again, I figured the Diane, I figured Russian cruiser, no AA, I am safe to continue. And I think I lose a fighter because I couldn't decide. Couldn't decide what my play was. Meanwhile, enemy Zuiho sinks a Wyoming. Meanwhile, I'm circling around this island over here, trying to decide what side of it I want to be on. We got a cruiser, we got 2 cruisers, the Diane, and I believe that's a Phoenix? Based on enemy left, yeah, Phoenix. It's the only cruiser, and you can see at the bottom here there is some separation between the Kaiser and the New York.
Many thanks.
So we're gonna go here. We're gonna attack the Diana once again. Basically, just trying to finish it off. What I was anticipating with the dive bombers is forcing him to turn to starboard, but he doesn't. He turns to port for whatever reason, and just drives in a straight line. Now he turns to starboard. It's way late for that, and we sink the Diane. Meanwhile, the Phoenix is engaging in a firefight with one of our battleships. I arrange for the now replenished Group 4, now reloaded, to sortie immediately. So now Group 4 will attack the Phoenix, who I figured AA cruiser. I misinterpreted the fact, and to be honest, you probably should do this if you're a carrier. Assume they're fully upgraded in terms of their anti-air. I figured the Phoenix was fully upgraded and had his advanced anti-air system. He doesn't. I also noticed some smoke coming off of his stacks. He's dead in the water. I initiate a long-range torpedo attack. Meanwhile, I find a depleted enemy bomber squadron. I'm assuming this is a fully restored. This bomber squadron just took off, which means that'll be the last of those dive bombers. We secure the kill on the Phoenix. Meanwhile, we start kicking that dive bomber squad to death. Meanwhile, Group 5 and 3 are replenished and back in the air. And we're gonna go play around in the middle. And I realize I am way too close to that battleship. That it is just the New Mexico, the Zuiho, and the Kaiser left. And I'm moving around at half speed, basically, so I don't overextend myself. And I think I end up running aground. I got spotted for a second there. I think I got spotted. I'm not sure if I didn't get spotted. I'm not sure who the Kaiser's shooting at. I order my dive bomber to make an automated attack on the Kaiser as I bring the torpedo bomber squadron forward. We have now collided with the island. Group 4, I believe, is ready to go. The dive bombers miss completely. We lose one of the dive bombers, so we're down to 1 plane. 2 torpedo hits on the Kaiser. He is flooding. That is what I wanted to accomplish, and we lost the other bomber, so we're out of dive bombers, but I got away without losing a torpedo plane, which to me was a lot more important, and I've got my fighters who will act as a sponge. The Zuiho has been spotted. I believe I actually started moving my ship backwards to basically engage in a secondary gun duel with the enemy Zuiho. That's what I thought I was going to do, and then the Yubari died, so I thought better of it again. As you can tell, I was not taking this match seriously whatsoever. Meanwhile, the Phoenix gets a Liquidator, and it's just a flesh wound medal against a Congo. I wasn't actually paying attention to my map to see where he was. We're going to make a long-range torpedo attack on the Zuiho. Group 3 is now replenishing. They've landed. Again, I get away. I don't think I lost a plane. Long-range torpedo attack. I did not expect any of these to hit. I don't think I get a hit here. No. I just missed the Zuiho off his flight deck. Now I've been spotted. Now the 2 closest to each other are the Zuihos. I have a 4-kilometer range secondary gun battery. The Kaiser opens up on us, as he should. I am way too far forward. We start taking damage. However, that's a narrow choke point in front of us, and the Zuiho appears to be out of usable aircraft. So what I'm deciding to do is do a long-range torpedo attack down the channel, just basically to force the Kaiser away from that channel and the Zuiho to maneuver. I have recognized how terrible an idea it is to be this close to the action. And there I get my Citadel penetrated by the Kaiser. The Zuiho actually gets hit by one of those torpedoes and is flooding, and the Kaiser is now in the firing line of those torpedoes. I think he'll get it turned in time. I think 2 of my torpedoes just drifted over each other. Yeah, he does get away in time. I lose a torpedo plane. That torpedo arms just in time to start flooding on the Zuiho. And he's flooding for good now. The Omaha comes to my aid. I make a hard turn to starboard to try and get out of the Omaha's way. Zuiho is flooding. And we sink him. So we sunk the Zuiho, who is, what, 7 kilometers away from us? 8, maybe? I use my fighters as a sponge once again. The Kaiser has run aground. There we go. Now you can see what my planes are doing. Sometimes they unselect when they land or get wiped out. So, we hit the Kaiser. We cause flooding and knock out his steering. He naturally uses his damage control. We're out of torpedo reserves. We're down to 2 planes in Group 4. We lost another plane in Group 3. Use my fighters again. I got set on fire. We're almost dead, actually, down to 8,000 health. We drop more torpedoes. We lose a dive bomber, but his torps is in the water. Move the fighters away. 60 seconds to go in the match. And we drop 2 torpedoes onto the Kaiser, cause another flooding. He is flooding for good now. And I order a automated attack on the Kaiser in case he snipes me. That's so my aircraft will still function after I die. Kaiser is flooding. Still flooding. New York's firing, and that's a Kraken Unleashed for us. It's actually the second time I've gotten a Kraken Unleashed since the medal's been implemented. I've gotten 5 kills plenty of times in the open beta and the closed beta. Most of those were with the Omaha, actually, which I hate playing. 10 seconds to go, though. We're not going to make it to the New York, and I don't think I would have sunk him with 4 torpedo planes. That is match over. We were victorious. There's your post-battle results. Did 98,000 points of damage, 155,000 credits earned, 2,000 experience, 100 free experience, and Kraken Unleashed. My other Kraken Unleashed that I've gotten is on with the Saipan. I'll show some more details here for you. Here you go. I can't quite see all the stuff we did. I can't quite see how many planes we shot down. We finished top on our team. I think the Zuiho finished on top of his team, our opposing Zuiho. No, the New York did. The New York finished top of the team. Yes. New York finished top of his team. He was actually the only survivor. We finished top on experience earned. Base experience 1,332. We shot down 14 aircraft. The Yubari on our team basically carried the AA duty for most of that game. Shot down 12 aircraft. I believe I shot down most, if not all, the enemy Zuiho's fighters. I actually only lost 11 planes to the Zuiho. I could have lost a whole lot less, though. The Diane shot down one of my planes. The Prigio Blue Steel Kiroshima. I don't remember him shooting down aim. Oh, he might have shot down my planes at the beginning. The Kaiser, I know, shot down quite a few of my planes. Of course, some of those airplane kills might be spotting aircraft, catapult fighters. Let me move to the next one for you. Right, so we damaged 2 warships that we did not sink personally. We sunk 5 warships for the Kraken Unleashed. Shot down 7 fighters, 5 dive bombers. That was all but 2 of his dive bombers and 2 of his torpedo planes. I think that'll do, though. Next time, I'm not sure. Play 6.0. See you then.